to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 8th of December. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Jonny McFarlane for the first time. I think we're on for the Aris Limassol game at Ibrox last week. Jonny, I think less said about that, the better, but good to have you back on.
Yeah, great to be back, mate. Hopefully we've got a more exciting show than to discuss that game ever again, because I'd like to just consign that one to the depths of my memory, which means it'll be forgotten.
Yeah, me too. Before we talk all things Rangers, folks, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, the MPH Group. If you're looking for some home improvements or even a new boiler, these are the guys to call. They've got a brilliant winter boiler promotion on just now. They also offer flexible finance options and guarantee and all that sort of stuff, all that jazz. The all-important links are in the description below. Give these guys a call. They know what they're doing. They are the people to phone if you're looking to revamp your home in any way, shape or form. Right, let's talk Rangers. Big game tomorrow. It's the first game of what is a very important week for Rangers. Dundee at Ibrox. Rangers then go to Spain to take on Real Betis in Seville, with a place in the Europa League knockout stage on the line. And then a week on Sunday, we have the League Cup final against Aberdeen. It is a huge week for Rangers coming up. I think it's a week that will define or make or break a lot of Rangers' careers, I'd imagine, Jonny. I'd imagine, no disrespect to Dundee, but you would like to think Rangers can take care of business tomorrow. The game on Thursday night is a big one. For me, the bigger game this week is a week on Sunday against Aberdeen. A real test of the mentality of this squad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where the juice is, Derek. Listen, Rangers have to win every game, so it's difficult for me to look ahead that far, and certainly you know that Clement won't be doing that, but that is just an enormous game. Do you know what? Not for the manager, Derek. You know, the manager will get time regardless, and I think he deserves that based on what he's shown so far. It's actually bigger for the players, because the connection that should be there between a set of players and a fan base has clearly been breached by the amount of times some of these players have let the fans down. So another missed opportunity, another failure to secure silverware at the most important time. And let's be honest, it's been far too long since Rangers won this tournament. This is a cup that used to have Rangers' name etched on it every year.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be received well at all, especially up against such a poor Aberdeen side. You know, they've got some good players, but they're not playing well. And it's a great opportunity. There's no doubt about it that there's not been a better opportunity since 2016. I don't think to win a cup. Hearts, I think, we're in better shape than Aberdeen are now when Rangers played them under Giovanni van Bronckhorst. So, or maybe not actually. Hearts were pretty bad at that point, weren't they? They were. They
to be honest, yeah, they've not been in great shape for. I mean,
where are Aberdeen in the league? They're 11th.
Well, they'd be bottom if they'd be bottom of the league, Jonny, if they hadn't acquired the 4 points off Rangers, which is tells you everything you need to know. Galling that Rangers have dropped points against them, but it is what it is. I wouldn't bet against them carrying their league form into that cup final next week, but Rangers need to guard against that. They need to be prepared for an Aberdeen side that will be well up for it.
Listen, Derek, that's one thing I've been going on about, is Rangers need to be absolutely up for it as if it was an Old Firm game in this one.
Yes.
There can't be any coming in cold. We're so much better than them.
Yeah.
We're going to play our football. They need to get in there and win the fight. This is Scottish football. It's Aberdeen. They will be at 110%. They will be fighting and clawing and scratching for every possible second ball. And Rangers have to match that. And if they do, then they'll win. But we've seen time and time again, there's some players in here in this squad aren't necessarily guys you would rely on sometimes in that kind of battle. Yeah. That's what I would be fearing from a Rangers point of view. that they don't step up and accept this game for what it's going to be, which is a fight, 100%. That's all Aberdeen are set up to do. Barry Robson has been criticised heavily by Aberdeen fans. Not me saying it, it's them. Just type in Barry Robson and have a look at the reaction.
They should be down there.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've spent a lot of money. I think their wage bills, probably the third or fourth highest. Certainly one of the two. Both them and Hearts spending a fair bit of money by Scottish standards. So they should be doing a lot better than they are. To be fair to them, give them a wee bit of sort of leeway on the fact that it's very difficult when you're at that level, going away on a Thursday and then coming back and then playing at the weekend. Rangers have done it for years, but Rangers have a much bigger budget. So that is difficult, but you're getting beat at home 1-0 by Kilmarnock and are on a terrible run. And as you say, would be rooted to the bottom of the league if it wasn't for results against Rangers, which is quite bizarre when you look at it. But Derek, there's no excuses, mate. That's the thing. Absolutely zero. Rangers are going to be expected to lift this trophy. And I'm not going to lie to you, Derek. I've got a wee concerns about this game. I've yet to see too much evidence that this side steps up. I would be feeling very concerned, for example, if Aberdeen went a goal up. And I don't think that's controversial to say. I think a lot of people will agree with me that there's a lot of guys here that kind of shrink when the going gets tough. You know that someone like James Tavernier will step up. Abdullah Sima shown that he can step up. There are not too many of them. And I think that's one of the things that Clement's going to have to get his head around, because we've seen it a lot. He's just in the door, so he doesn't know them as well as or hasn't seen them evolve through the years in the way we have. They just have to get over the line this time. Otherwise, I really, really fear for players like Connor Goldston and James Tavernier in terms of their relationships going forward with the fans. And whether that's fair or not, I'll leave that for other people to decide. I don't think it would be fair in James Tavernier's case, but
they need to win it.
They need to win it. They absolutely need to win it.
Yeah. It is absolutely must win. Huge thanks to Denzel for pointing out I began the show on my laptop mic, so thanks for that, Denzel. I've switched to my actual mic now, so thank you very much. Blue-eyed boy, with a bit of praise for you, Johnny, on the show. He says, love Johnny, consummate professional. So there you go.
People also saying I'm talking rhubarb, Derek, so can't please everyone.
Right, positive vibes, very positive about the game a week on Sunday. Says, I think we will smash Aberdeen. I hope you're absolutely right, buddy. There is a small matter, as I mentioned, of a couple of games before then. Dundee tomorrow. Do you foresee changes to that team from what we have seen start the game at Tynecastle? For a start, Tom Lawrence won't play, that aside, I'm just trying to think who else might drop out for the game. No disrespect to Dundee, but I think it might be an opportunity to play some players that are maybe on the fringes. I'm thinking Rabbi Matondo. I'm thinking... Danilo missed two sitters on Wednesday night, Johnny. On that, he deserves to be taken out the firing line, but do you just play him and hopefully he's got his shooting boots on Saturday? What's the options? The alternative? Kemar Roof came on, Cyril Dessers we know all about. I think there's a conundrum for the manager up top.
Yeah, listen, there's always decisions to make if Kemar Roof's fit, because, as I've said before a million times, I think he's the best striker at the club, and I don't think Danilo changes that. I think Roof is still the best striker, but he's never fit, so
I know.
It's not in a situation where he can kind of prove it. It's just an opinion. Personally, mate, I would play Danilo because there's never going to be a better opportunity to
get goals,
be able to get some goals than at Ibrox against against a team that's not Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, or Celtic fundamentally. So I would definitely play him. Hopefully, there'll be chances provided for him, and he'll have an opportunity to get himself back. The thing is about this game, it's interesting, isn't it, Derek? Because every game's massively important. But, you know, Rangers' performances at Ibrox are better, big pitch, fans on their side. As I say, Dundee they've done well, but they're not one of the better sides in the league, I don't think. And that's all very well, but you've got to take into account the fact that Rangers absolutely need to win. They have to keep the pressure on Celtic. They can cut that gap at the top, which puts the pressure back on Celtic for the Sunday game. On top of that, then you've got to go to Seville. We know you're going to that and looking forward to getting back there, Derek. Looking forward to seeing you in your swimming pool. Because Derek's got a flat with a swimming pool, folks.
Chris Jack, one I watched with it's an absolute belter. So the hope is we'll be doing the morning briefing next Thursday live from the pool. So fingers crossed that.
And he's not joking. In terms of that game's massively important as well. I know. Listen, you're in the Conference League, and there's one of these ones. If I'm on next week, I'll probably be saying, well, for example, if Rangers got knocked out, well, the Conference League gives you an opportunity, a real opportunity to go and win a European trophy. But let's be honest, Derek, you don't want to be in the Conference League. You want to be in the Europa League, and Conference League will only get exciting once you get down to the kind of brass tacks, quarterfinal, semi-final type sections of that tournament. So until then, you'd prefer to definitely be in the Europa League. So I think you've got to go there and try and get a result. You can't really go and not play a strong side. But Thursday, Sunday, it's that old adage. It's not an awful lot of time. There's no training. It's just recovery. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. 3 games in such a short period and 3 important games. But of the 3, Derek, I don't think there's any doubt. Dundee's probably the least important and the most likely to get a good result with a weakened team. So I'd fully expect some changes.
Yeah, lots of points coming in just on the back of that. There's an interesting one just on Danilo. Mark Robb says Danilo needs to put the mask back on. Yeah, anything to make him better and more prolific in front of goal, please, Danilo, if you are watching the show, buddy. Ross Nielsen with the point here. To have a natural goal scorer like Big Tony Goals available. Well, we all know about that. I think that was a huge mistake, allowing Antonio Chaco to leave in the summer based on the recruitment. And this is a point that Neil McCann...
Derek, can I just pop in on that? Because I don't agree with that. Like, I think it was right to let Antonio Chaco go. I just don't think it really was going to work out. I don't think he's quick or mobile, and the way Rangers play, I don't think he really suited it. He's a great finisher, and he's a good player. But as John Turner was saying in the comments there, I think he is a little one-dimensional. And I think if he'd played 50 games, I think more people would have seen that. He was scoring at a rate. If you look at his expected goals, he was scoring way above his XG at the start. So he had a real purple patch. And I think he kind of came onto his more natural game after that. And listen, I saw Cholak having some eye-wateringly bad performances. I remember away at Motherwell one game, he was absolutely shocking. Now, listen, is he better than what Rangers have? Of course. So if you're asking me, should they have sold him and replaced him with Dessers? No, you're spot on about that. I think they should have sold him and bought better than Dessers. I think that's the crux for me. So I kind of disagree on that. I don't think Cholak's not a good player. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that they shouldn't have sold him, but I think for the way Rangers play, I think you kind of need that guy who's going to be a bit more all action, like Alfredo Morelos was at his best, able to run in behind, able to hold the ball up. That's not really Cholak's game. He's a penalty box poacher, and you need to be very dominant to get away with that.
Yeah, I think I said on record at the time he would have been good as a squad player. He would contribute this season. So I was disappointed to see him go. And unfortunately, and with hindsight, the recruitment has been dreadful that he'd walk straight back into that Rangers team. Denzel with the point says he scored goals, Johnny, something the majority of our present strikers seem incapable of. And I'm including Danilo in this as well, Johnny. I remain to be convinced that he's going to bag Rangers 20 plus goals, which we said at the start when they were signed for big money. Both he and Dessers would need to hit that sort of number to justify the outlay. No chance they're hitting that, I don't think.
No, look, I'm like everyone else. I've got to be honest. I think I was on here. I was pretty excited by Lammers. Dessers I hadn't seen an awful lot of. Josh liked Dessers, thought he was going to press a lot from the front. I think there was an element with Dessers of he's had this bad injury. He's maybe not quite the same player. Had this back injury towards the end of his time at Cremonese. He certainly doesn't look like the player that was scouted in terms of the video footage that was looked at by us here at the Rangers Review. Lammers, I really liked the idea of the signing because I thought he was more of a number 10 than a number 9. You can see his technical quality, but I was talking to a colleague about this last night, and while I do think Lammers is a good player, he never delivers when it matters.
Nah.
I take you back to Servette, 2-0 up after 20 minutes, half an hour gone, he's put through one-on-one with the keeper, puts it wide, goes through one-on-one with Joe Hart against Celtic, goes round him, puts it wide, and then, of course, that moment against Aberdeen, ball into the box, 6 yards out from goal, opportunity to claw back the title deficit, would be down to 2 points if Rangers win their game in hand, and he puts it straight at the keeper. So these key moments, he's failed every time, and you just can't. You can't get by on that. I will tell honestly, Derek. I see people saying Lammers isn't a good player. He got an £11 million move to Atalanta because he has a skill set.
His head's gone, Johnny.
If you can't separate a player's skill set from a player's output, you don't really know what football.
His head's gone, I think.
Listen, I think he's a player that's got immense talent, which is why he's gone to all these big clubs. That's why he's gone to Sampdoria. That's why he's gone to Atalanta, who, by the way, do not buy diddies. Their whole signing and scouting and recruitment has been built on brilliant signings over the years. They've got that one wrong. But I can see why Beale looked at him and thought, look what he can do. Maybe if I can get him right, it's worth the gamble. But 100%, when it counts, he's been found wanting. I don't know if that's psychological. I don't know what it is. It's not technical.
I think you left at the wrong time. I remember speaking to a Dutch journalist or someone that covers PSV extensively, and they said that he left at the wrong time. It was during COVID as well, and he should have stayed where he was. I think we can look back and see what's gone wrong. He's had numerous failed loans, and unfortunately, coming to Rangers, a permanent move. He sort of carried that baggage with him, unfortunately. And
Derek, it's not going to work. Sam Lammers at Rangers is not going to work.
No.
I think you can see the reaction to what I'm saying as people are just jumping on me, and that's fine because I'm not going to change my mind on it.
Yeah.
The fact is, he's a very good technical player. When it counts, though, in the big games, he doesn't do it, and that you can't survive as a Rangers player if you can't do that. But anyone coming on here and telling me that Sam Lammers doesn't have technical skill, I'm sorry, you're talking rubbish.
Yeah,
the guy showed it. He's just not showed it when it counts, and
ultimately, that means he's not good enough for Rangers. And Dessers, to be honest, I just don't understand that signing. You look at Dessers and what he's given to Rangers, it just makes no sense whatsoever. I can make a case for Lammers in terms of what he brings to the table in terms of his skill set. Dessers, I just don't get it at all. Maybe you've seen something in him that makes you understand it, but I don't.
No, and he's historically had slow starts at clubs, so we're just waiting for him to go on a scoring run, but we just can't see that happening, unfortunately. It wouldn't surprise me if he started on Saturday, incidentally. I know that he played last week against St Mirren, but I think his future, like Lammers, isn't for long staying at Ibrox, I would say, which leads me on. Just on the striker front, positive vibes. Neil McCann said during the week about Sima playing through the middle. He said Sima would play as a striker for me with Matondo left. Danilo needs benched a few. He will come good. It's just a dry spell. I've seen this mentioned a lot, Johnny, about Sima playing through the middle. Joshua explained it really well yesterday about fulfilling that role over on the left-hand side and coming infield, and you might take away part of his game if he played through the middle. Where do you stand on it? Would you like to see him given the chance to play as a centre-forward?
I totally understand why people are saying that, but I think, like Josh explained, he's getting the space off the left-hand side because the striker's making it for him. He certainly looks like an icy finisher, doesn't he? You look at the goals that he scored. The game last week was a perfect example against St Mirren. That was a really, really good finish. You know, he whips the ball with such ferocity,
There's absolutely no chance of the keeper saving that. We've seen that time and time again. Even a second goal. You know, how many times have we seen strikers over the years? Like Kenny Miller was a classic one. If you gave Kenny Miller
too much time,
a chance that looked difficult, he would thrash it in. And if you put him through one-on-one with the keeper, he seemed to have a sort of a block. Dessers is another example. If you give him a chance, you never have the confidence that he's going to calmly look up and find the corner. Well, that's absolutely what Sima did there, didn't he? It was just a delicious finish at the corner. Couldn't have been more accurate. So I understand why people are saying he'd be ideal for the striker position. But then I think you lose a bit off the left. So fundamentally, Derek, whatever pot of money Philippe Clement gets in the January window, and we know because he's told me personally that he's going to go and sign players in the January window. Whatever pot of money he gets, he needs to sign a couple of players, or at least one player who scores goals.
Yeah,
because I think Danilo has shown some evidence that he can be a player. He's had a poor 3 games.
Yeah,
he's shown a lot more, for example, than Dessers. But I don't think Danilo is a natural finisher based on the missed chances that I've seen from him. I would like to see Rangers go and sign Lawrence Shankland. I've said it before, I'll keep saying it.
Yeah.
I think Rangers just need a player that's going to score 25 goals in the Scottish Premiership. And people will say, well, he's 28. A lot of people say he's 29. He's not 29, he's 28. And he's not 29 until, I think...
I don't care how old he is. He's going to score goals for Rangers for the
point is, it's not a good investment. It's not one for the future. It's not an investment that Rangers should be making too often. But sometimes you just need to say, there's a player there who you can go and get, who's going to guarantee you X amount of goals for the next 4 years. And I think Shankland would be just about as good a bet as any signing that you could make at this level, because he's done it at multiple clubs, Scotland International. It's just, to me, it's the ultimate no-brainer. I do understand why people don't want it, because I know all the stuff about, well, you're advocating going out and signing a 28-year-old for X amount of £1 million. There's no sell-on value. That's not what Rangers should be doing. Look at the accounts. Look at how they should be operating for future in terms of player trading model. And I get all that. But like I said with Dessers, and I was wrong with Dessers, if you feel like you can go out and get a guy who can make the difference, who's a central striker, it's worth paying the money if they deliver. Dessers doesn't. It's not going to deliver. But I think Shankland would.
Yeah,
and that's just my take on it, Derek. People saying Miovski, I think Aberdeen would be just impossible to deal with, and I think they're looking for £5 million.
Yeah,
I don't think Miovski's worth that. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, there's murmurings he could end up at the other end of the city as well. They might be looking for a striker in the January transfer window. Just to the point on Shankland, John C. Turner says, Johnny, what did you make of PC's Cuddle with Shankland on Wednesday night? Nice little embrace at the end of the game. Perhaps we'll be seeing more of that from January onwards. But yeah, should we read too much into that, Johnny?
You can read into whatever you want. I didn't see it, Derek, so I can't really comment, but I have heard other people mention it, that it did happen. So I'm sure it's just Big Phil's a big sort of cuddly kind of tactile guy, and he just wanted to say, well done, Lawrence, for your performance. But maybe there's more to it. Who knows?
Yeah.
I certainly think Hearts, Derek, don't need to sell. That's the hard thing about Shankland, the other complication about it. They don't need to sell. They've got an investor who every year puts millions in James Anderson, who somewhere between a millionaire and a billionaire, but certainly got enough money to put £100 million into Bologna University, and has been piling money into Hearts. I think it was 4 million last year on their accounts. He just donated it, 4 million quid. So I don't think they need to sell. But 18 months in his contract, they're going to have to make the sort of decision about whether or not you sell to reinvest, for example, because I don't think Shankland's going to sign a long-term deal there. Yeah.
In terms of this question, what would they cost? I've been on a video, I think, with Chris last week, and saying that a bid of around 2 million should get him, but I've seen Hearts fans saying they want at least £5 million, which seems
2 million would not get Lawrence Shankland. No chance. absolutely no chance. I think you'd be looking at 3 million plus, and 3 million probably starts the ball rolling. You might have to go to like 3-2, 3-3 or something like that. It's not going to be a cheap deal, 100% not. Because Hearts know, like I know, like you know, Lon Shankland at Rangers has guaranteed goals, so they're going to want a king's ransom. But I think you can be pretty certain as well that the player would be pushing for the move if Rangers did go for it. But I honestly don't think there's any way that Hearts would accept 2 million. This is going to be an expensive one if it can be pulled off, and that's a big if, because I don't think Hearts will be that keen to deal with the fallout if they sell their best player in January to Rangers for a start. So it needs to make sense for all parties.
There's a few comments suggesting a sort of player plus cash deal. Positive Vibe says 2.5 million plus Suter for Shankland. I don't know if I'd be getting rid of John Suter. If they can take Dessers off Rangers' hands, if they can take Dessers off Rangers' hands, then I think we've got a deal there. But I can't see Suter leaving in January. There's other in terms of that centre back position, Johnny. Blue Nose John says, what about Scott McKenna on a pre-contract in January? Apparently been told he is surplus to requirements at Nottingham Forest. They're going through a bit of a bad time down there in the Premier League. I think Joe Worrell's another one that's been told he can find a new club. Would you take Scott McKenna? Scott
McKenna, left-sided centre-back, aggressive, big, tall guy. I think he's 6'4". That's not a bad shout, is it? I think it's been well known that he's a supporter of the club at the other side of the city, but people put too much emphasis on that. These guys are professional footballers, and they quickly change their allegiances and come to love the club they're at, regardless. I think that would be one of those ones you would file under interest in, put it that way. Joe Worrell, not so much. I think I know he's a better player now than he was. I think he's got significant Premier League experience. I think he'd be looking for big money. I don't think Joe's short of self-confidence. So I think you can imagine the salary package you'd be looking for would be significant. But you've got Connor Goldson in that right centre-back role. Joe Worrell, no. But Scott McKenna on a free, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and Sean with the point as well that the Betis left-back Miranda, 23-year-old Anna Bosman, he says as well, a decent player. We'll soon find out on Thursday how good he is. Hopefully he has an absolute stinker.
That's really interesting, mate, because I think one of the things that was crystal clear from the AGM, from John Bennett, was people were saying, look, you spent all this money in the summer. How are you going to reinvest? How are you going to change the squad around? And I've read this from colleagues in the journalism game. The truth is, as John Bennett said, and I think he was very pointed about this, so to me it's fairly obvious. I think Rangers can look at it from a point of view of, well, there's a number of players who are out of contract, and if they don't get new contracts, then this huge amount of wages are going to be freed up. If you factor in Ryan Jack, Borna Barisic, John Lundstrom, now some of these guys you'd want to keep around, some of them perhaps you wouldn't. Those three alone, you are talking about the thick end of 80, 90, 100 grand. So all of a sudden, you can go out and get real quality with that. 3-4 players of significant quality that can come in and really make an impact and maybe hopefully be a bit younger and have the potential to be sold on. I think Bosman deals are absolutely a smart way to manage your player trading without having to go out into the market and spend big money. Look at Fashion Sakala, Derek, perfect example of it. You get in a player for free and then off he goes for £3.5 million 2 or 3 years later. That's the benefit of doing Bosman deals. So you don't necessarily have to spend big money to turn over a squad. You can do it.
Well, we've seen that last January, Johnny Raskin and Catnall come in. They'll make money on those two.
Yeah, 100%. And those two were both players whose contracts were coming to an end, which allowed them to basically arrive at Ibrox for fees that were fractions of what they would have been had they been in contract for longer. that's the sort of deal I think Rangers are wiser going forward. Interestingly, Derek, when I was talking to Philippe Clement for the daily newspapers last week, one of the things that we were talking about was just the new signing of Niels Koppen and what his role will be. And he actually said, and I don't know if people saw these quotes, but I thought they were quite interesting, was that there was a lot of people who applied for the role who had vast experience of the UK market. But Clement said specifically, we need much wider than that. We can't be keeping on doing this with just the focus on the UK market. So I said to him, well, one of the things about that is, you've got the Brexit rules now, which means that while it's maybe more difficult than it once was to bring in a Belgian player or an Italian player, it's pretty easy for you to go to Africa. It's pretty easy for you to go to South America and pluck up a player from the Ecuadorian league or the South African league, for example. And we know that those leagues are not going to ask you for £5 million very often. It's much better value for money, and there's a lot of quality. And he sort of looked at me, smiled, and said, "That's a good question, but it's not one that I want to elaborate on at the moment." Which I think you can make up your own mind what he's meaning there. But I think what you're going to see under Niels Koppen is Rangers are going to have a much wider net using data, looking at leagues far and wide. They're not going to be doing as much scouting in person. That was something that they did previously, but they have revolutionized how they're going to scout, and they're going to change the amount of time that they're spending with the data, and that's going to be increased. And what hopefully that will mean for Rangers is that they can go and spend money on emerging markets where they can get real good bang for their buck. Because what we've seen is Rangers have wasted an awful lot of money over the last few years, haven't they?
Not half.
The recruitment 100% hasn't been right, and you can defend individual transfer windows, but overall, you have to say, since I think probably Gerrard's second or third window, it's been poor, hasn't it? There's been a lot of gambles, a lot of low-value gambles. Very few of them have paid off. Obviously, you hit big with a Calvin Bassey, but he's not the norm, is he? Let's be honest. The vast majority of these guys that have been brought in just didn't make an impact and left. Players that you would just completely have forgotten even played for Rangers. I'm thinking of people like Juninho Bacuna and Jack Simpson and people like that. So you're going back quite a long way, and there's been a large amount of money spent, and it's just not worked out, has it? So it's something that was vastly needed, and it's good to see that Rangers are getting it right. Now, will it work? Are the right people in? Well, we'll know that in 3 or 4 years when we're able to look back on the evidence. But at least they're trying to change it up and accepting that it's not been right at this point, because it hasn't been. Yeah,
it has to be better. There's no doubt about it. Just to get to 1 or 2 more comments. Some interesting ones. Now this as follows the news yesterday, Johnny. Quite shocking news, really. Santos have been relegated from the Brazilian top flight for the first time in their history, sparking riots and the likes in the city and what have you. Alfredo Morelos, we know, signed a deal with them recently. He's only played 3 times, I think. Just incidentally, before I go touch on Morelos, Miranda apparently agreed terms with AC Milan, so forget about that one.
But not a bad move for the kids.
Yeah, not half. But Morelos, I've seen a few comments coming in saying he does have a relegation release clause. David Snow with the point, bring Morelos back if the rumours are true and he has a relegation release clause. I think you would realise now how good he had it and would go for it again with us. Jamie echoes that point. He says that I take Alfie back sounds crazy, but he's free. And I think what he's been through with Santos will have changed his attitude. Johnny, Alfredo Morelos, would you take him back?
Oh, you're setting me up today, honestly. Topic after topic where I'm going to upset people. Nah, I really wouldn't have Alfredo Morelos back. Sorry to the many people that love him. Fundamentally, Alfredo Morelos' top goal-scoring achievement in the Scottish Premiership was 18. His average over the course of the time was about 13 goals. A Rangers striker needs to be scoring more than that now. Of course, if you're talking about Alfredo Morelos at his best, he was absolutely incredible, outstanding 18-19 season, or maybe it was 17-18, whatever it was, the games against Feyenoord, when he's just
Porto, Legia Warsaw,
leaping about like Gerd Muller,
that was
heading the ball
4
in.
years ago, Johnny.
Yeah, he was sensational at that point, but I don't think the Alfredo Morelos in 2023 is that player. I think the fact that there wasn't this stampede for him, this is a player that Rangers turned down £16.5 million for.
Yeah,
he's available for free, and he goes months and months without a club and ends up at Santos, who are relegated. I think that tells you how he's perceived in football. I don't think Alfredo Morelos is the most professional of footballers in the way he lives his life. And I think fundamentally that began to catch up with him. He got to an age where you're no longer able just to get away with it. And I think the best years of Alfredo Morelos were given to Rangers. To go back and invest into that now, I think would be investing at the end, sorry. What I would say, though, Derek, is similar to the whole Cholak thing, I don't think people are wrong when they say that Alfredo Morelos is better than what Rangers have at the moment. Like, Alfredo Morelos now is better than Rangers have at the moment. I agree with that.
That's how bad
I agree with that. But to me, he's still not good enough now. Rangers still need better, still need more guarantee of goals. So I'm trying to be as fair as possible, but to me, it's just not something that should be even countenanced. And I don't believe that even if he was super fit, even if he was super motivated, that you'd be able to keep him like that, because Steven Gerrard couldn't keep him like that. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst couldn't keep him like that. So I have no reason to believe that anyone can keep you like that. Can you keep Alfredo Morelos like that? Because he has an attitude to life that I don't think is necessarily going to be.
I don't know if the hunger's still there. Yeah, I don't know if the hunger's still there from him. It will be interesting to see where he does end up. Incidentally, I think he'll be leaving Santos.
It's important to say that when you speak to people about Alfredo Morelos that have worked with him, they say like he trains really hard. He trains well. And he's good. He's a good guy to have around the camp, and he's a bit mad. The players loved him. The players did genuinely like him. I think they were exasperated by him at times, Derek.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a bad kid. I think sometimes he's been badly advised. I don't think he really, truly ever realised what he had at Rangers. He was on a big, big wage. He was absolutely idolised. And I wonder if he looks back now and he's at Santos, who are listen, they're a big club. That was a good time.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'll start to look back and go, I could have just, stayed there for quite a long time and been really happy. I think he's pushed himself because he still had in his head that he was the player of the 2018 season. Yeah, and he's not. He's not that guy anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't smack me as a Philip Clement player either. So I would be a surprise, to say the least, if he would be pitching up at Ibrox in January time. Right, I think that'll do us there. Huge thanks to Johnny for joining us on the show. It's a rarity these days, but it's always absolutely brilliant to get him on.
Really,
Johnny?
Really dreading it, mate, if Alfredo Morelos comes in and I've got to try and explain all this again.
Who knows? Stranger things have happened. But there you go, folks. Just a heads up for later today, the press conference taking place from 2 p.m. onwards. Joshua will be at the Rangers Training Centre for us. For our YouTube members, we'll have the reaction to that. We'll also have Philip Clement, whatever he had to say on the YouTube channel, and also the transcript on the website, and whatever player Rangers put up for the press as well ahead of the game tomorrow against Dundee. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.